mean, if you listen to the president's speech, he talked about, warning Europe, warning the world not to be indifferent to Russia's actions, saying that would ignore the lessons of 2 world wars across Europe. But what was also very interesting about this speech, Hala, it was almost a rebuttal to that speech that Vladimir Putin gave to the Russian parliament. The president went almost line by line through Vladimir Putin's speech and Russia's logic as of late in terms of why it went into Crimea, its justifications for going into Crimea. The president said there is no comparison with Kosovo, that the people of Kosovo went through brutal suffering before NATO intervened there, that there was no comparison to Iraq, that even though it was a subject of great debate in the United States and around the world, the United States did not seek to annex territory in Iraq. So the president making that case as well. He also rejected the notion coming out of Moscow that the U.S. is working with fascists in Ukraine in terms of trying to stir up unrest in that country. And so it was also very interesting to hear the president. He was really talking to NATO allies, NATO partners during this speech as well. At one point, calling on NATO countries to beef up their commitments to the overall alliance. And that was one key moment at the speech. Here's a bit of what the president said at that point during the speech.
The Russian leadership stays on its current course. Together, we will ensure that this isolation deepens. Sanctions will expand, and the toll on Russia's economy, as well as its standing in the world, will only increase. And meanwhile, the United States and our allies will continue to support the government of Ukraine as they chart a democratic course.
Now, that was obviously a different part of the speech, but later on in the speech, you also heard the president talk about NATO, talking about making that commitment to NATO allies in Russia's neighborhood. The president going on to say, and this was one moment of honesty, really, that Russia is not going to be dislodged from Crimea through military force, but he is holding out the hope, Hala, that at some point Moscow will take that path, that off-ramp, as administration officials like to call it, to diplomacy as a way of getting out of this crisis. Of course, that is something that we're going to have to wait to see what the reaction is out of Moscow, but it was a very tough speech from the American president here in Brussels, Hala.
All right, you could certainly hear that those EU countries and President Obama hope for a diplomatic solution at this stage to end this. Thanks very much. Jim Acosta is in Brussels. We'll talk to Jim a little bit later.